Good afternoon, Mr. President, members of the Council, distinguished guests. I had the honor of speaking to this Council just a few days ago, giving voice to thousands of survivors of sexual violence from the last war in Kosovo. It is when you speak of the pain of those who suffered most that you are reminded again and again of the suffering that wars bring to the most vulnerable. But the story of the survivors of Kosovo is one of resilience, one of turning pain into strength, one of turning agony into positive contribution for their society and their country. As I said that day, the victims of sexual violence during the war in Kosovo chose not just to survive, but to thrive. That is their story. And ladies and gentlemen, that is also the story of Kosovo. A free, independent, sovereign, democratic, and a thriving republic. And it will be so for as long as Earth circles the sun. I speak to you today as the president of a country that has lost around 13,000 people in just a few months of war, with thousands left unaccounted for through enforced disappearance, with the highest number of children killed per capita of any war in former Yugoslavia, with almost every house destroyed, with thousands tortured as political and war prisoners, with thousands raped as a tool of war, with around 80% of the people of Kosovo forced to leave their houses, with practically everything burned down to ashes. And yet again, we chose to rise from the ashes, to rebuild our lives, and build a future where all of our people, no matter their background, can live in a country free of fear, discrimination, or propaganda that can spur violence. A country where the principles of democracy, human rights, and the rule of law are the main pillars on which we stand, and a country that values its alliances and partnerships as the bedrock of our successes. We're also a country that has extended a hand of cooperation to our neighbor Serbia, and we participate in a dialogue through which we would peacefully resolve all of our remaining differences. We decided to do so despite Serbia never having asked for forgiveness, never showing a sign of repent for the crimes committed by the Milosevic regime, never having accepted the reality that happened in front of the eyes of the world. But instead, they remain in a state of denial and make every possible effort to take our region back to the 90s. I am here to say that we will not let that happen. I'm here to confirm the commitment of the people of Kosovo to walk forward, not backwards. I'm here to reconfirm the commitment of all the institutions of Kosovo to not allow that setback that would put at risk the hard-won freedoms that we have achieved together with so many of you, together with democracies from all around the world. Because the sovereign and free Republic of Kosovo is one of the greatest successes in humankind history, and a testament to what democracies can achieve when they stand together against autocracies and genocidal regimes. And this outstanding example of unity in the face of adversity is as important now as it was back in the 90s. Which is why I believe this is not just another meeting of the UN Security Council on Kosovo. On September 24th, the people of Kosovo woke up to the news of a police sergeant killed and another one wounded in the early morning hours. That day, the Republic of Kosovo was a target of an act of aggression by Serbia through terrorist and paramilitary groups. Today, I want to take a moment to honor the memory of now hero of Kosovo, Afrim Bunyaku, whom we lost as he was defending the territorial integrity and sovereignty of our republic. Heroes like Afrim Bunyaku remind us on a daily basis how precious freedom is and how vigilant we ought to be to defend it. May he rest in peace, and his memory serve as a reminder to all of us of the imperative of standing up to authoritarian and malign forces, not just in the Western Balkans, but all around the world. Ladies and gentlemen, after the 24th of September, everything has changed and much remains a constant at the same time. On one hand, Kosovo's commitment to protecting our sovereignty, promoting and advancing rule of law and democracy, as well as fostering positive neighborly relations, remains unwavering. On the other hand, Serbia's determination to destabilize the region, to occupy land, and to replicate Milosevic's and Putin's playbooks is at its peak. What Serbia expected to happen that day was to succeed in its Crimea-style planned annexation of the north of Kosovo. What Serbia was caught in by surprise is the unwavering determination and professional response of the Kosovo police forces. During the attack and ever since, Kosovo institutions have maintained close coordination with international security presence in the country. As has been the case historically, Kosovo will continue to work closely with allies and partners to counteract such acts and to prevent them from ever happening again. Yet, what we have heard from Serbia today is an extension of their recurring efforts to tone down the scale of this unprecedented security threat and act of aggression against Kosovo. They want to also twist the entire truth which unfolded in front of the eyes of the world. They try to switch the place of the aggressor with that of the victim of the aggression. But the facts are irrefutable and evidence shows to the contrary. These terrorist groups and paramilitary forces have been financed, trained, armed, and received political support and shelter from one source, the Republic of Serbia. Let me turn to the first element. The financing of these two terrorist organizations called Civilna Zaštita and Severna Brigada has been constantly coming from the state institutions of Serbia. They, in fact, don't even hide it. They appoint them as parallel, albeit illegal and criminal structures to function in the Republic of Kosovo and then give them monthly payments. Before the terrorist act this September, these groups were engaged in terrorizing, intimidating, and threatening Kosovo Serbs who live in Kosovo, and engaged in attacking NATO soldiers. Let me repeat, paid by Serbia, financed by Serbia to attack none other than Kosovo Serbs. Now turning to the second element, the training of these terrorist organizations. As the investigation shows, there's been constant military type training of these terrorist groups in the military bases of Serbia, including in Pasulanske Livade and in Raška. There's video evidence of it, and Serbia state institutions, especially defense institutions, even proudly admit training these terrorist organizations. Moving on to the third element, the arming. The weapons that we have confiscated from the terrorists only that day amount to weapons that can be used by as much as 400 people. Most of them are military-grade weapons that are only produced in the military state industry of Serbia, many produced in 2022 and some only 6 weeks before the attack. The weapons and armored vehicles were smuggled in through illegal routes, and some of the arms came in through vehicles with false NATO signs on them that these terrorists had put on their armored vehicles full of weapons, including full of little green men uniforms. Sounds familiar, right? And finally, the fourth and perhaps the most important element, the political support by and the sheltering of terrorists in Serbia. Radojcic, the leader of the terrorist group who openly admitted being in charge of this attack, is one of the closest collaborators and partners of Serbia's president. He even sits in National Security Council meetings in Serbia, right next to the Serbian president, and is still walking free around Serbia, despite admitting leading that attack. In addition to that, Serbia made sure to announce a day of mourning for those terrorists who killed a police officer while defending our country from aggression. And let us not discard the massive propaganda and constant hints that have been given on the streets, in football matches, in interviews, and all around Serbia ahead of the September 24th act of aggression. The infamous saying, "When the army returns to Kosovo," appeared in graffitis all over Serbia and all the way to Russia. In the light of this evidence, we must set one thing clear. This is not some quarreling between two countries or a blame game. What happened on September 24th was not just an attack on Kosovo. It was a plan to destabilize the entire Western Balkans. This was an attack against democracy and freedom, as well as peace and stability, which you have helped build. Thus, we must be in this together. The response of the international community was united in unequivocally condemning this terrorist act against Kosovo. The amount and types of weapons confiscated represented a significant threat to the safety of not only Kosovo citizens, but also international personnel, including NATO troops. The US, the UK, the EU members and other countries have called for everyone involved in planning and carrying out this attack to be held accountable, and stated that Serbia must fully cooperate. While condemning the act of these paramilitary and terrorist groups, the international community widely praised the reaction of Kosovo police as very professional and in full coordination with NATO forces as well as ULEX. Today, the Kosovo police stands proud as the epitome of professionalism and diversity within the region's law enforcement landscape and beyond. It exemplifies a resounding success story that has unfolded over the 2 decades of our free republic. This remarkable achievement is a testament to the unwavering commitment of our institutions to the cause of law enforcement, but also the visionary partnership of our international allies that support us in this regard. Whether in the south or the north, east or the west, the police's unwavering mission is one and only: instilling trust, safety, and security in neighborhoods and communities across the entire country. Mr. President, Council members, while Vučić aims to cover his true intentions, his acts reveal his underlying motives. He wants more territory. It is that simple. It is, however, that much concerning. And to everyone acting in disbelief that someone would do something like that and use the 90s tactics in 2023, I say, rationality always parts ways with autocrats. Rationality stands no chance among malign intentions, expansionist appetites, and imperialist ambitions. It is utterly unfortunate that Serbia sees violence as a solution to everything. Only in the past few months, Serbia abducted 3 Kosovo police officers within the Kosovo territory, attacked countless journalists, as well as attacked 93 KFOR soldiers through their illegal gangs. And as confirmed by the White House National Security Council, there has been, I quote, a large Serbian military deployment along the border with Kosovo. Calling it a destabilizing development, the statement went on confirming, I quote, unprecedented staging of advanced Serbian artillery, tanks, mechanized infantry units. Serbia only pulled some of its troops from the border after the US warnings that it could face punitive measures. But significant military forces continue to be permanently based in the area, with Serbia's 48 forward operating bases around the border with Kosovo. Ladies and gentlemen, a clearer understanding of the situation also requests a better understanding of the mastermind behind it all. Autocratic leaders often master the art of projecting themselves as promoters of peace, all the while consolidating power behind the facade. Their narratives and propaganda make it challenging for some to discern the true nature of intentions of their leadership. Serbia's government cynically claims that what happened on September 24th is a righteous response of local Serbs against the so-called pressure and terror. Let me be clear. What is happening is not a result of pressure and terror against Kosovo Serbs, but instead a clear reflection of Serbia's strong and historic appetite for more instability, for more territory. I invite you all, dear members, to come to Kosovo so that you can witness firsthand the progress marked in my country. We have made significant strides in establishing one of the most advanced constitutional and legal frameworks in the world that steadfastly protects the rights of minority communities. and what I believe is hard to find in the vast majority of countries around the world, the Serb ethnic minority in Kosovo, that comprises about 3 to 4% of our entire population, holds a veto power over amendments to the Constitution and any law deemed to be of vital interest, ensuring their say in key legislative decisions that relate to education, religion, rights of communities, local election reforms, municipalities, use of language, use of symbols, and other decisions. That is, even if over 90% of the members of parliament would vote in favor, nothing can pass without their consent. With the highest level of decentralization and vast decision-making powers granted to municipalities at the local level, Kosovo's law on local self-government guarantees special rights for minority communities through enhanced municipal competencies in so many areas. This all stands as a testament to Kosovo's commitment to creating an inclusive and diverse society where the rights of all its citizens, including minorities, are protected and upheld. I keep repeating, and I will say this again to every Serb living in Kosovo. Kosovo is your home as much as it is mine. I want to work with each and every one of you to make it a home where you prosper and thrive and contribute to make it a better place for all. The Constitution and legislation in force provide for strong protections on the rights of Kosovo's Serb community to use their language at all levels, both national and local. The Serb language has the status of an official language in all the territory of Kosovo, while education as well as other services are guaranteed also in their language. Recognizing the profound significance of cultural heritage, our Constitution guarantees the Orthodox Church a special level of protection in our country, further cemented by the law on special zones, while independent and professional assessment confirm that Orthodox churches in Kosovo enjoy a high level of security. Yet, as I speak of enhanced and advanced rights for Kosovo Serbs and every minority community in Kosovo, ethnic cleansing through administrative means, as qualified by the Helsinki Committee for Human Rights, is ongoing in Serbia, more precisely in the Preševa Valley. Through the passivization of residence addresses, the Serbian government is tracelessly, that is even without issuing any written notice or document, wiping out Albanians from the civil registry of Serbia and as a result, denying them of all of their basic rights. These violations of rights, also confirmed by the US State Department reports, as well as some of the latest resolutions of the European Parliament, are further exacerbated by the hate speech and discriminatory language which is routinely used by media and politicians in Serbia. Dear members of the Council, justice. Justice is the centerpiece of our every action. Rule of law is the bedrock of our governance. It is shameful but also unacceptable how Serbia attempts to label our rule of law efforts as acts against Kosovo Serbs. This false play of the interethnic crime card to undermine our pursuit of justice is a strategy we fervently reject. We stand ready and very resolute in our resolve to combat crime and criminal organizations with an unwavering commitment that transcends ethnicity, religion, or any other background. A criminal is a criminal, no matter their nationality. In our relentless pursuit of justice, we adamantly uphold and unwaveringly adhere to highest standards of human rights. Anything contrary to this is not and will never be acceptable to us. And I have, as President, raised my voice every single time these standards were not upheld. Furthermore, it has now become a standard practice to have the presence of international community in a monitoring capacity in all of these processes. But to put things in perspective and to speak of the actual cases that are classified as cases of interethnic crime, I am proud to say that since 2008, the year of our independence, when the level of interethnic crime was a total of 63 cases that year, we have witnessed a trend of constant reduction over the years. In 2023, the total number of interethnic crimes is 19 cases, 19, out of which almost 70% consist of chanting, swearing, and graffitis. But we are committed, dear members, to bring that number down to 0. Let me be clear. In Kosovo, we have a shared endeavor, one that unites us in a common cause to safeguard and strengthen our collective future. As we navigate the path forward, we want to continue to build bridges and advance together toward a brighter tomorrow, one that not only fulfills our aspirations, but also secures the well-being of all of our citizens and communities. In our efforts to advance the rights of every community, and in this case the Serb minority community, I confirm that we are willing to do even more for the Serbs in Kosovo. But we will not give Serbia instruments through which they can destroy the lives of Serbs who live in Kosovo and try to continuously diminish our sovereignty and territorial integrity. Ladies and gentlemen, Kosovo, once a symbol of suffering because of the genocidal war waged by Milosevic, has emerged today as a shining example of democracy in the Western Balkans and beyond. Its remarkable journey has been recognized by international reports and publications showcasing the incredible strides the country has taken. With a vibrant civil society, a flourishing economy, and a resilient population, Kosovo stands as a testament to the transformative power of determination and the pursuit of democratic ideals. Its story of resilience and hope that proves that even in the most challenging circumstances, the ideals of democracy can be ignited and can flourish. International reports and publications have consistently highlighted Kosovo's remarkable democratic progress. Our commitment to human rights, rule of law, and good governance has garnered well-deserved praise with many observers such as Transparency International, World Justice Project, Freedom House, World Press Freedom Index, and VDEM lauding Kosovo as a model for other countries in the region. Kosovo stands out today for its remarkable progress in the fight against corruption, for rule of law, media freedom, political freedoms, and civil rights, as well as democratic elections. Obviously, these international organizations are showcasing the truth and not the propaganda that you have heard from Serbia today. As the youngest democracy in the Western Balkans, Kosovo has embraced its state-building journey with an unparalleled dedication to fostering an inclusive, transparent, and participatory democracy. Its successful endeavors in building a strong democratic foundations are an inspiration to the region and a symbol of what can be achieved when the pursuit of democracy takes center stage. In the face of any challenge, our people's resolve remains unshaken. We understand and cherish profoundly the value of our democracy and independence, and are fiercely proud of our state-building journey, a path marked by unwavering determination and sacrifice. Dear members of the Council, Serbia constantly pretends as if it is the authority to interpret international law. We all know that it is not. The final authority to do that is the International Court of Justice, which has unequivocally found that the Kosovo Declaration of Independence has not violated any applicable rule of international law. If I might add, this opinion was requested by Serbia itself, but they not only continue to deny it, but also violate it through their constant acts of aggression. And since today, we're led by the Brazilian presidents of the UN Security Council, I would like to honor the memory and legacy of one of the greatest minds of international public law and international humanitarian rights law, the former ICJ judge, the late Judge Trinidade of Brazil. In his opinion, in the case of Kosovo's declaration of independence before the ICJ, he stated, "No state can invoke territorial integrity in order to commit atrocities, nor perpetrate them on the assumption of state sovereignty, nor commit atrocities and then rely on a claim of territorial integrity, notwithstanding the sentiments and resentments of the people victimized. What has happened in Kosovo is that the victimized people have sought independence in reaction against systematic and long-lasting terror and oppression, perpetrated in a flagrant breach of the fundamental principle of equality and non-discrimination. The basic lesson is clear. No state can use territory to destroy population. Such atrocities amount to an absurd reversal of the ends of the state, which was created and exists for human beings, and not vice versa. Judge Trinidade ends his opinion with the following. States transformed into machines of oppression and destruction cease to be states in the eyes of their victimized population. Thrown into lawlessness, their victims sought refuge and survival elsewhere, in the jus gentium, in the law of the nations, and in our times, the law of the United Nations. I dare to nourish the hope that the conclusion of the present advisory opinion of the International Court of Justice will mark the closing chapter of yet another long episode of the timeless saga of humankind in search of emancipation from tyranny and systematic oppression. End of quote. We all had the hopes of Judge Trinidade. Unfortunately, as long as there are dictators who search for more territory rather than care about the people, we'll continue to face the challenges of tyranny. In the face of such challenges, we should never fall into the trap of both-sidism. We are witnessing a tendency to apply the principle of both-sidism when confronted with complex issues. This approach aims to appear balanced and impartial by giving equal weight to opposing perspectives. However, it also more often than not risks to lead to a fallacy that undermines the very essence of democracy. When we fail to unequivocally call evil by its true name, we risk to create space to moral equivalence between right and wrong, virtue and vice. This approach obscures the fundamental values and principles that democracies are built upon: justice, human rights, and the rule of law. In doing so, this opens the door to manipulation and deceit by authoritarian regimes, who exploit this reluctance to take a strong, principled stand against their actions. We have seen it in our part of the world, and we are seeing it in Ukraine. Authoritarians exploit the gray areas created by both-sidism, using it as a tool to sow confusion and weaken democratic institutions. In the face of an ever-growing bond between the world's autocrats, democracies must stand firm in their principles and values, for it is the only way to preserve their resilience and protect the democratic freedoms. In face of such hybrid actions through the act of aggression by Serbia, we ask our international partners for strategic clarity and determined actions to prevent acts of aggression by Serbia from ever happening again. In a resounding call for peace and security, our plea is clear and unyielding. Kosovo needs substantial security guarantees within the Euro-Atlantic security framework. As we move forward, we should focus on halting Serbia's support for terrorist activities against Kosovo, urging them to cooperate in the investigation of the recent terrorist attack and hand over to us the terrorists involved. Moreover, increase the security around Kosovo's border with Serbia and adopt clear measures against Serbia's leadership as a deterrence. A resolute message at this point would underscore a commitment to safeguarding peace and security in the entire region, but also in the entire European continent. Most importantly, it would showcase that the democratic world does not stand idle in the face of autocratic and hegemonic regimes. As President Biden recently said, you know, history has taught us that when terrorists don't pay a price for their terror, when dictators don't pay a price for their aggression, they cause more chaos and death and more destruction. They keep going, and the cost and the threats to the rest of the world keep rising. Dear members of the Council, we must not let propaganda win. We must fight for the truth. There is only one truth that can be evidenced, and that is that Kosovo has been a victim of an act of aggression by Serbia. That Serbia is terrorizing Serbs who live in Kosovo for the sake of stopping their integration within Kosovo institutions and society. That Serbia wants Kosovo territory, which they will never get. That Kosovo is the constructive party in the dialogue with a track record of implementing the vast majority of its undertakings. And that Serbia's list of non-implementation is so long that it would take us many, many hours to just go through it. That we want a full and swift implementation of the entirety of the Brussels Agreement of February 27th in a fair and balanced way. That while we were committed to peaceful talks with Serbia, they resorted to use of force. That we want justice and accountability, and Serbia wants denial and impunity. That we want peace, and Serbia has shown on the 24th of September that they, unfortunately, want war. But we will not let them have it. As we all know, democracy and freedom always prevail, because there's nothing that can stand in the way of a freedom-loving nation. Because no matter how hard the hurdles, no matter how thorny the road, no matter how painful the sacrifice, the people of Kosovo will never, ever give up on their freedom. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to start by thanking all those countries who have been contributing not only through their speeches, but also through their work with us in the ground for peace and stability in the entire Western Balkans. And for those of you that have concerns, I want to say we want to work with you to make things better, because we in Kosovo believe that democracy is never a finished project. It was actually sufficient to listen to the speech of the Russian Federation to understand which party here is telling the truth and which one is spurring falsities through a propaganda machine. Russia once again used propaganda against the people of Kosovo and against those who fought for the freedom of Kosovo, the Kosovo Liberation Army. The biggest difference between Kosovo and Serbia is that we are not afraid of justice, which is why we have ourselves created the specialist chambers, because we will not allow for a moral equivalence to be created between those who committed genocide and those that defended our people from genocide. As was the case in the past, we are fully confident that justice will once again prevail. Mr. President, members of the Council, my people were victims of some of the most horrendous crimes known in humankind history. It is precisely because of the pain and the suffering we had to go through that make us so committed to never ever see that ever happening to anyone else again, no matter their ethnicity or religion or other background. It is being victims of a genocidal war that has shaped us into the strongest defenders of peace, stability, human rights, rule of law, and freedom, but also defenders of truth from propaganda. You heard Russia and Ms. Brnabic today speaking about the so-called Kurti terror. Kurti is the Prime Minister of the Republic of Kosovo, but he was also a war prisoner, almost tortured to death in their prisons, while the President of Serbia during those same years was the Minister of Propaganda for Milosevic. And as if that was not enough, they publicly state, even nowadays, including last night by the President of Serbia, that they wish that they had never released Kurti from prisons alive. Yet again, the Prime Minister of Kosovo has chosen the dialogue. In that table led by EU negotiators, on one side you have the Prime Minister of Kosovo, a war prisoner, almost tortured to death. And on the other side, you have the Minister of Propaganda of the regime that tortured him. But we will never give up on dialogue as the only means for resolving any difference between us, because Kosovo is a country full of Mandelas, Gandhis, and Martin Luther Kings, of people who strive for the future, for peace and reconciliation. Our parliament, our government, every institution, every house in our republic is full of survivors of horrendous crimes, but all of them committed to and working for peace. This is who we are, a nation of survivors who thrive, a nation committed to peace because we have seen the opposite of it, a nation committed to democracy because we've lived the opposite of it, and a nation that is ready to pay any price to ensure the survival and the success of liberty. Thank you very much for your attention.